I hate coffee.
Yeah, Landon's got to wake up, but we're glad you just decided to join us here in the InStep podcast. If you would do us a favor, subscribe and share this podcast if it is helpful to you, and if you think it would be helpful to others. You can find this podcast on two platforms. One is Harvest.247 YouTube, and this one is at InStep247 YouTube. So you can find them in both places. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. We're going to talk about authentic Christian community and what that means to us. And I think that this comes out of kind of an expression of when we launched Harvest Church. We really wanted it to be authentic, right? And even our logo, we've talked about this in services before. The H on our logo is incomplete. And what I mean by that it's incomplete is most logos or most things that you see have these defined lines and they're straight and they're blocked and they look pretty and all that kind of stuff. Ours is wavy and, you know, kind of looks like a barn or whatever, right? Like the roof of a barn, and it's not straight lines, and it's this idea that there's no one that walks around with straight lines, a perfect life that has it all together. We're all in process. But one of the things so it's this idea of authenticity. And so we built Harvest Church off the desire to be extremely authentic in our expression, even to the point where when we launched these things called Harvest Homes, we wanted those that are discussion-based small groups to be authentic as well, and people bring a voice. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is authentic Christian community. And so what does that mean to you guys? When I say that phrase, authentic Christian community, what does that mean to you guys? Your perspective.
So authentic is real. A real Christian community is what we're talking about. I think that would say it might not have to be a church, but it also might not be. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's okay. You're doing good. So what is the idea? You said real. What does that mean to you? When you say a real community, what does that look like to you?
People who are the same, like they're the same way in and out of church.
Yeah. So like you see them at church, they're the same. You see them at the grocery store, they're the same. You go to their house, they're the same. They're not putting on a front, right? What does that mean to you, Mackenzie?
Well, I mean, I said what he said, so...
Yeah, well, you can elaborate on it a little bit more.
If you're the same in and out of church, like you said, you're the same. And at church, most people act differently because they're at church and they're in front of a pastor and, like...
Yeah.
But if you're at home, you're, like... You're not in front of a pastor, so you think, oh, it don't matter.
Yeah.
But it does. And so if you're the same in church and out of church, it's more authentic.
Yeah.
It's how you actually are.
Well, and I think the idea of in church and out of church is definitely a perspective that we've had, that we're gonna go to church, right? So clearly, church is a place that we go to at a defined period of time throughout the week, whatever your church looks like. But more than that, the Bible actually describes that we are the church, right? So the church is us, right? Jesus said, "No longer will the day come where they say, I worship on this mountain or that mountain. We'll worship in spirit and truth." And he was talking about the age of the church, to where we can worship in this room. We can go outside, even though it's raining. We can go outside and we can worship under a tree. We can worship on a park bench. We can worship anywhere because we're the church. And so I think it is that, right? Being the most authentic expression that we can be of the church wherever we go, right? being the authentic expression. When we think about the authentic expression of the church, what do you think that means? Does it mean that we have all of our stuff together? Does it mean that we're
No.
perfect? Does it mean that, what does that mean, being the authentic expression of the church?
You're who you are. You recognize that you need to work on some things, and you have the people around you to help you, and they can share your experience, their experience, and it's helpful when you have people around you that have been through it, know what you're going through, and that can help you. But if you're at church and you're acting all like perfect and everything, you don't have anything wrong, no one's gonna know. No one's gonna know that you need help.
Yeah.
And so you're just gonna not get the help, and you need the help.
So yeah, we've talked a little bit about that before we started recording, about the idea of the church being maybe the least authentic place that you can go. Preston, why do you think that is?
Well, I think that, like, you go to church, you know, front of pastor, like they said, it acts like, I'd say you have to act more godly, I guess you could say,
Okay.
than you would anywhere else.
There's an expectation that you'll act more godly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And, like, you know, you're front of pastor, you know, you act like this, then you get home after church or wherever, and you act, like, totally different.
Yeah.
Then, like, not, you know, you're not all uptight, not in front of a pastor. But, like, it should be like the same, I guess.
Well, it should be the same, because
Like, it should be, yeah.
like we forget, like Moses stuttered.
Yeah.
We forget, we were talking about this before, David was a man after God's own heart, yet he committed adultery and murder, and he lied about it. Paul, who was once Saul, persecuted Christians. Jonah was disobedient. Like, all of the people that we revere, except for maybe Elijah and Noah, well, maybe not even Noah, but like these people all had struggles. And for whatever reason, we feel, I think there's a perception, and I think your generation and maybe even the Gen Z generation is helping alleviate this a little bit, but there was a belief that you had to kind of have it all together when you came to church. And there's still a perception of that when people are like, I don't come to church because I don't really have it all together. It's like, well, none of us have it all together, and none of us have ever had it all together, and we're never going to have it all together, right? And so it's got to be, we have to get to a place to where we feel like we can be authentic. And so, like, when you're thinking about faith-based friendships, right? What are the qualities in other people that you look for to surround yourself with? Like, what do you want to see in your friends that you know, okay, these are going to be good influences in my life? What are some qualities? How can I just talk? You can talk over each other. You can just share.
Friends who can, like, worship together, and friends who can, like, have Bible studies with together. And I feel like that's strongly impacts a person.
Yeah.
Friends who aren't, like, you're not afraid to worship around, that will worship with you and not feel like you'll be getting judged because you're around someone.
Okay.
And you're worshiping or at church or whatever. You want to be able to feel comfortable with them.
Okay.
That they're not going to make fun of you or judge you for what you believe and know it's right.
So what qualities, Preston, in a person would tell you they're not going to judge me? Like, what would you see them in them? Would they be honest? Would they be authentic? Would they be loving? Would they be gracious? Would they be kind? Would they, like, what are the qualities, like those things that you would find in that you would look for in an individual? Because there could be somebody watching this that's like, man, I just don't even know how to surround myself with good friends. So what are the qualities we need to tell them to look for in other people that would be good influences?
Like, I would look for, like, honest people who, like, aren't afraid to tell the truth. Like, not, and, like, you know, like, not to judge you, but, like, hey, you might need to change this or change that.
Yeah.
You know, like, in your life, if you want to, you know, or not. And, like, caring people who will be there for you when you're, like, down and like struggling with something.
Yeah,
So like, yeah.
it's good. So you talked about, Mackenzie, not feeling judged. Okay, so how can we be real and vulnerable in a Christian community? And you talked a little bit about it before, how we do youth group at Harvest. So maybe expound on that a little bit.
So our youth group is at a house, and it's not like a youth group where you go, there's a preacher in front of you and he's talking. We all have a conversation, just like he's told me. He's like, just like we are now, you're having a conversation, and it's just, you're all involved, and it's like you can be more real because you can tell stories, you
Yep.
can talk about things, you can ask questions.
Yep.
Where if you were at church, you would just, like, you couldn't ask questions during the service. You would have to wait till after, and most people aren't going to do that.
Yeah.
They don't want to go up and just talk. They want to. It's more comfortable to have a conversation during everything than to go up to a preacher after and be like, "Hey, I don't know this," or "Can you explain this?" Just because everybody's going to look at you or whatever, and you're going to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, why are they doing that?" or whatever. But you can all have a conversation, and someone could hear something you say, and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah," expand off of it, and it just works out more, and it's more comfortable.
Yeah, I feel like the best youth harvest homes have come when we have a topic that we're talking about, and people ask questions that surround the topic, but maybe not exactly like the topic, and then it's like everybody gets in on the discussion about it. I feel like those are kind of the best ones, don't you?
Yes, when we went through Revelation, that was really good because everybody had so many questions that weren't also on topic but weren't, and it was like, oh, it's like you learn more whenever not everything is on the exact topic.
Yeah.
And it kind of talks about everything around that topic also, and it was really good.
Yeah, well, because we went through a whole year of Revelation. So it's not like we had to do like, all right, guys, this is our plan. For the next 22 weeks, we are going to do Revelation. And, well, we don't have time for that question because we didn't get through but 5 verses. There were some weeks where we only read 3 verses, and then the rest of the time people are asking questions and we're going around. But it's that environment that you're talking about, the authentic environment, gives us the room and the space to entertain those questions. And what I've found with you guys is when you're able to ask the questions, not that we allow it to get off topic, but when you're able to ask the questions, even surrounding it, the whole room is more engaged. The 19 kids that are in there are far more engaged than if I just came in with a lesson, gave the lesson, said, "Oh, guys, that was a great youth group," right? And you're like, okay. You're way more engaged when you're a part of the conversation. Preston?
So like the one time I went, I felt
Preston always skips.
No, I try not to.
I try to give him a hard time, but yeah,
I know
I'm
you
just
do.
messing with you, bro.
But like the one time I went, I felt more like relaxed and like engaged and a part of the youth,
Yeah.
and like being able to ask questions like during and not after, and then end up not asking because I feel like you get judged or feel embarrassed or forget.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Well, there's something I think, and y'all can tell me about, because we're talking about authenticity, we're talking about community or whatever. You know, we don't a lot of times have organized games that we're going to play and all that kind of stuff. But what we do every week that is consistent is we eat a meal. And there are people that sit at different tables from here or there and all that kind of stuff. But everybody's having a meal together and just having natural conversation. What kind of impact do you think that has on the relational dynamic in the group? Just being able to sit around and eat a meal together.
I feel like it's like you're like connecting. You're connected to the people there, and
Yeah.
we're a family.
Yeah.
We're a family there, and we're all following God together.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just, you can talk about everyday life, and laugh, we play games, and just have fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a
Do
good
homework.
way to. That's true.
Just do something like-
It's a good way to start off a youth group because you already start off on the basis of everybody's talking, everybody's having fun, and then you go into the lesson.
Yeah.
If you just start in the lesson, it is good, but it's fun to like be able to sit around, just talk to everybody, catch up on the week because you haven't seen them in a week or
Mhm.
so, and it's good to build a relationship, especially if you're gonna ask questions and have conversations that you might not talk about in front of a whole church of people, because you know the people, you've talked to them, you've been able to be real with them, and it's just easier to ask those questions. and
Yep.
it's-
Yeah.
Amen on that.
Amen on that. Yeah, no, I think it's good, and you're right. There, I mean, the value of the meal together, and a lot of our harvest homes do meals together, is that you do have that time that you would normally not have to sit around and just have an everyday conversation. And there's so much value in just being able to sit around and have just conversation, to build connectivity, to have a meal together, for not everything to be so scheduled out, right? For there to be a little bit of freedom of, we think we're going to start at 7:30,
it
but we
be
may
later.
not, right? We think the food's going to be there at 6:30, but we linger. And I think that there's a lot of value in the relational connectivity there when we're talking about Christian community. And so I would say to someone, when you're thinking about Christian community, it's like, find someone that you can connect with. They may not be the most popular individual in the whole school or on social media, but find someone who's relatable, find someone who you can connect to, find someone that you can have a conversation with, right? And find some commonalities in that, right? And then it really just kind of opens up, I think, the whole dynamic, like what you guys are talking about. And then it makes it easier to be vulnerable with people, because you're like, oh, I have a relationship with this person. I can share this. They're probably not going to judge me. Right? All right, so let's talk to the individual that's like, man, that sounds great. I would love to have friends like that. I'd love to have a community like that, but I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to build authentic community. What would you say to someone?
If you don't feel right at a church or something, go somewhere else. You don't have to stick with someplace. Go where you feel more comfortable and build those relationships with the people there. Because if the people there are not the best people, you're not gonna feel comfortable there. You're just gonna be alone and just sit there.
Yeah.
So find somewhere where you fit in and you feel comfortable enough to be able to have a conversation.
That's right.
And if you feel comfortable there, then you also build friendships that could last a lifetime, and they could build you up and help you.
Yeah, that's right. Got any insight on that, Landon?
Yeah, like she was saying, build friendships on, like, it doesn't matter if they're popular or whatever, or if they play sports, or if they're doing something certain. Nobody cares. Like, you have to build relationships on good people and good neighbors.
Yeah, that's the value of being old, is that you realize as you get older, the things you thought people cared about, nobody cares. We just got back from New York, and I was talking to Chase, who's our worship leader. If you don't attend Harvest or whatever, I was talking to Chase yesterday, and one of the things we were talking about is one of the most refreshing things about New York is nobody pays you any attention. They do not care. There's a place, like, we walked through Central Park, and there were people playing beach volleyball. There were people playing pickleball. There were people riding their bikes. There were runners. There was one section we came about that they had like old, like R&B music, and they were on rollerblades, like dancing. Yeah, on rollerblades. There were people playing basketball. There were people walking and holding hands. There were people walking dogs. And what was amazing to me about seeing it is there's just a spot for all of these people. They all have different things. Some of them were weird, like the people on the rollerblades with the R&B, and they were dancing and like slow dancing and all this kind of stuff. And you're just like, I've really never seen this before in my life, but you know what? That's cool.
Good for them.
Good for them. And nobody cares. And I think that's kind of the thing of like, as you get older, your age, a lot of times people look at me like, but you don't really know anything. Literally nobody cares, about all that stuff. So I think it's good. I do think it's an important thing, especially now, to find authentic Christian community, whether it's in person or whether it's online. But it's better in person. Everything's always better in person. And so the encouragement would be to find those people, be vulnerable. And my one encouragement to people is if you find a community, at first it's going to feel very uncomfortable because you don't know people. Give it 3 months. Go regularly for 3 months. If it doesn't change, maybe it's time to move on, like Mackenzie said. But if it does, but more than likely, you're going to fit in, you're going to find your people, and you're going to feel comfortable and stick there and then just stay there. So that'd be the encouragement. Hey, we appreciate you checking out the InStep podcast. Again, subscribe, go follow us on all the channels, harvest.247, InStep.247, also on Instagram. And we would love for you to follow along with us. We'll see you next episode. Have a great day. God bless you.